Hey guys, I'm Afra Syab, your physics teacher. In today's lesson, we will learn about the forces, like how you can define a force and how many kinds of forces are there. In this section, we will learn about the effects of the forces, turning effect of the forces, center of gravity. There are some formulas that are used to calculate the quantities. There are also some example questions. At the end of each section, there are questions for your practice. So let's start this. First of all, effects of the forces. How you can define the force? If I consider here there is object and I push this object, then what will happen? The object changes its position and it comes at this position, let's say. After that, I take another object here and I pull this object. Then what will happen? Again the object changes its position and come to the other position here. So I can simply say that the force is pull or push on any object. You can see here the definition of the force. Force is defined as a push or a pull acting on an object as a result of its interaction with the other object. In this case, the object interacts with my hand. So I can simply say that the pull or push acting on any object as a result of the interaction of that object with some other object. It is basically called as force. What will be the unit of the force? Force is measured in newtons. The unit of the force is Newton. Can you tell me either the force is a scalar quantity or vector quantity depending upon the direction of the force? So force is a vector quantity because it has both magnitude, unit as well as direction. So I can simply say that when there is a direction of the force, it means that it's a vector quantity. See in this figure that I draw here. Here in the figure of this object, here I draw two arrows. This arrow basically shows the direction of the force, in which direction the force is acting on the object. That's why the force is a vector quantity. So what happens when the force acts on the object? If I suppose that there is object and I apply the force on that object. Just consider that this object is car. When you apply the force on the car, what will happen? The car accelerates. And you know the formula of the acceleration. Can you define the acceleration here? Acceleration is equals to delta V over delta t. Change in velocity per unit change in time. It means that when the force is acting on the body accelerates. When the body accelerates, it means that either the magnitude of the velocity, which is basically called as the speed, or the direction of the velocity changes. So I can simply say that when the force acts on the body, it may causes the change in the speed of the object. It may causes the change in the direction of the travel. So both of these effects are basically due to the force. But if I consider any elastic object and I apply the force on that object, then what will happen? The shape of that object may be changed. So I can simply say that the force can also change the shape of the object. But when you have to change the shape of the object, the magnitude of the force should be very, very large. And if I consider here there is a spring and you attach the masses with this spring, then what will happen? The spring moves in downward direction. You continues here attaching the mass with this spring, then the spring basically extends So the size of the spring changes here because its length changing. Initially it's small. When you attach the masses, the length of the spring increases. So I can simply say that by applying the force means that by attaching the masses here, the size of the object also changes. So you can see here, force can cause a change in speed, which is basically the magnitude of the velocity, direction of travel, the direction of the velocity, size or the shape of the object. For example, loading the springs with the weight means that when you attach the masses or the weight with the spring, then what will happen? The length of the spring increases. I can simply say that the spring extends. So it causes the extension in the spring. Here are some examples of the forces. You can see here the two people pushing the boxes. So push of the box is basically force. In this case, I can simply say that both of these are applying the force on these boxes. Here are two kids that are pushing a block. So push of the block is also the force. So I can simply say here that both of these kids are also applying the force on that box. Both of these are the examples of the forces. Here you can see that there is a person which is basically pulling and the other person is pushing a body. And you know that pull or push on any object is basically called as force. It means that both of these are applying a force here. You can also see a girl that is pulling here. So when she is pulling means that she is applying the force here. These are the examples of the force from daily life. So you know that when you apply the force on the body, then what will happen? First of all, the speed of the body changes. Second one, the direction of the travel, shape or size of the object changes. Here the girl is applying the force, then what will happen? The speed of that moving object changes. So I can simply say here that when you apply the force on any object, then the speed of that object changes. So here this person is doing push and pull. In this case, he is also applying the force. This person is basically lifting the weight. So I can simply say that he is also applying the force. When you apply the force on the body, then the size of the body changes. See here there is a rubber and this person is basically stretching it so that its length increases. I can simply say that here the force changes the length of that rubber. How many kinds of forces are there? So there are different kinds of the forces. First of all, here is the frictional force. So the frictional force is basically present between two objects when one object tries to slide over the other object. And here actually this opposes the motion of the object. When you have to move the object, you have to apply here the force, which is basically called as applied force. When the applied force is larger than the frictional force, then the object can easily move. Second is the spring force. Spring force is basically present in the spring when you attach the weight with the spring. There is also the buoyant force. This is basically the force which is acting in the opposite direction when the object is placed in the fluid, just like here the water, and the weight of that water is acting in downward direction. Gravity force. This force is basically present due to the gravitational effect of the earth. It is basically called as weight. Every object is attracted towards the earth. Drag force. Drag force is present on any object when the object is moving through the air so that its weight is acting in downward direction, but there is an opposing force that is acting in opposite direction so that the object slows down and gains the terminal velocity. You already know about the drag force. Next is the applied force. When you apply the force on any body, like you pull or push any object, then this will basically the applied force. The electric force. This force is basically related with the charges. So the electric force is basically shows the attraction or repulsion of the charges. Next is the magnetic force. The magnetic force is present between the magnets. And normal force. The normal force act on any object normally to it, means that this force making an angle of 90 degree with the object. In this case, you can see here there is a table over which there is a cat, and the force is acting in upward direction, so that there is an angle of 90 degree between them. I can simply say that when the force acts normally to any object, it is basically the normal force. Experiment to plot the load extension graph. So first of all, how you can plot the load extension graph, and what is the load extension graph basically? So see here, see this figure. In this figure there is an experimental setup for this experiment. So first of all, you can see here there are the springs, and there is also the pointer which is shown here. Scale or ruler is also present here. This is basically the weight or the mass. When you have to plot the load extension graph, it means that this weight, mass or load, all of these are the same thing. So first of all, take a spring and adjust it. Also take the ruler and first of all find out the initial length of that spring with the help of pointer that is attached with the spring. So you can see here it's the first spring, and see the position of the pointer. It's basically at this point. This is the original length of that spring. Next, second situation is given here. The same spring is here, but now you attach the load. When you attach the load with this spring, then what will happen? The length of the spring changes. You have to note the reading of that length with the help of pointer on the ruler. So the second reading basically comes from here. This is the new length of this spring. After that, you start attaching the more and more loads with that spring and find out the corresponding values from the ruler. When you find all of these values, you just need to repeat the experiment 2 to 3 times, and at the end make a table between the masses that you are attaching here, which is the load, and the readings from the ruler, which is basically the length. So let's go back. Here are the simple steps that you need to follow. So this apparatus basically first of all consists of the spring, ruler, masses and pointer. All of these things are necessary when you have to plot the load extension graph. Initially, note the reading from the ruler. You have to find out the reading from the ruler when no mass is attached with spring. This reading is basically the initial length of spring. It means that first of all you have to find out the initial length of the spring by taking the reading from the ruler. Now attach one mass with the spring. First of all, attach only one mass or the load with the spring with the pointer attached to the bottom. The length of the spring changes. With the help of ruler, again determine the length of the spring. When you attach one mass with the spring, you again need to take the reading from the ruler. Start increasing the attached masses with the spring and note down the corresponding lengths of the spring until the total of 10 masses have been added. So basically you have to increase the masses from 1 until 10, and corresponding lengths are also noted. In the table, record the readings of the mass, and the mass is basically measured in kilogram and the length is measured in centimeter. Repeat the experiment 3 to 4 times and take the average of result. So after that you have to repeat the experiment again and again and take the average of the result. Here is basically the animation that is related with the Masson spring. Let's open this. So let's open the first one, intro. Here you can see that there are two springs. What you need to do here? So first of all, you can see here there are the two springs and you have to choose the ruler and place here. After that, there are different masses given here. First of all, you have to note the reading from the ruler in the equilibrium position when you don't attach any masses. After that, I suppose I attach the mass of 50 gram. Then you can see the spring starts vibration. So you actually have to find out the length of that spring now. Then increase the masses. I attach here 100 gram. Now again note the reading of this length of the spring. In the same way, you have to change here the masses, means that increase the masses so that also changes the length of the spring. Note the corresponding length values from the ruler. You need to make the table of the mass and the length of that spring. Repeat this experiment again and again and take the average. So you also need to here observe the effect of that spring constant. Let's place here again the ruler. First of all, I suppose that for the first spring, the spring constant is very small. And for the second spring, the spring constant is very large. I attach here the same masses, which is 100 gram. See the difference in both of these. The first spring can extend larger as compared to the second one. It is because of the reason the spring constant of the first spring is very small, means that this spring is the soft spring. But the second spring is basically the hard spring because it has the large value of the spring constant. You can also observe the effect of the spring constant on the springs. So you can also practice this from here as well. Let's go back. When you draw the table of the masses and length, after that basically you actually draw the load extension graph. The load is basically the force, which is F, and this force is basically equal to the weight that you are applying on the spring, so that its length changes. So how you can find this? Just multiply the mass values with the gravitational field strength to find out the load. And this load is basically also be called as the spring force. Next thing, you have to calculate the length, which is basically called the extension of the spring. It is equals to the final length when you attach the masses or the load with the spring, which is L, minus initial length when you don't attach any mass. It is L naught. Subtract both of these values to find out the extension. So you have to use both of these formula when you have to calculate the spring constant as well as the extension. The same thing is given here. After doing the experiment, the spring force or the load can be calculated by multiplication of the spring mass with the acceleration due to gravity, which is basically 9.81 Newton per kilogram. The acceleration due to gravity or the gravitational field strength, both of these are the same thing, and its value is 9.81 Newton per kilogram. So spring force is basically equals to mass times the gravitational acceleration. Then you need to calculate the extension of the spring. It is calculated by subtracting the original length of the spring from the each new length of the spring. So you subtract both of these lengths to find out the extension of the spring. When you plot the graph between both of these, you get the curve like that. The force or the load is taken along the y-axis and the extension is taken along x-axis. First of all, you can see here there are two regions. What is the difference in both of these regions? In the linear region, you can simply see here the graph between the force and extension is a straight line. I can simply say in the linear region, the force and extension, both of these are directly proportional to each other. By increasing the applied force, the extension of the spring also increase. Here the extension is basically represented by x and the force is represented by F. So in the linear region, both of these are directly proportional to each other. This law is basically called as Hooke's law. You will learn about this law in this lesson also. So first of all, in the linear region, both of these are directly proportional to each other. That's why there is a straight line. This region is basically called as elastic region. It is called elastic region because when you apply the force on the spring, the extension of the spring increases. But when you remove the force, the spring comes to its original position. After this cross sign, you can see that the force and extension, both of these are not directly proportional. The line is not a straight line. It means that when you increase the force accordingly, the extension of the spring is not increasing. So I can simply say that in this region, the Hooke's law does not obey, because the force is not directly proportional to the extension of the spring. In this region, when you apply the force on the object, then the extension increases, but not equally as that of the applied force. But when you remove the force, then the extension of the spring does not decrease. Means that the spring does not come to its original position. That's why this region is basically called as plastic region. And in this case, the spring is plastically deformed. Now let's see the explanation for that. It's given here. Before the cross sign, extension is directly proportional to the applied force and the Hooke's law applied in this region. In the first region where there is a straight line, the extension is directly proportional to the applied force and the Hooke's law is applied in this region. When you increase the force, extension also increases and the material is elastically deformed. Means that when you remove the force, the spring can attain its original shape. The elastic limit is reached at the cross sign. The elastic limit is basically until the cross sign. After this cross sign, the elastic limit ended. So from here there is another limit. Elastic limit is also be called as the limit of proportionality. After this limit, the extension is not directly proportional to the applied force, indicating that the Hooke's law does not obey here. So when the Hooke's law does not obey here, this region is basically plastic deformation. Means that when you remove the force, the spring cannot attain its original length, but it is deformed, and it is deformed plastically. So I can simply say in this graph there are two regions. One is the elastic deformation and the second one is the plastic deformation. The difference in both of these is that in the elastic deformation, when you remove the force, the spring can attain its original length. But in the plastic deformation, when you remove the applied force, the object cannot attain its original length. It is deformed plastically. Here is the examination tips. Don't confuse with the term proportional and linear. Both of these are basically different terms, but you don't confuse in both of these. I can simply say that when I have two quantities and these are proportional. What does this mean? It means that when you draw the graph between these quantities, you get a straight line and this line actually passes through the origin. See here, if I take any quantity on the x-axis and y-axis, when you draw the graph, it is a straight line, but this straight line actually passes through the origin. Then in this case, I can simply say that both of these quantities are proportional. But when you have to define the linear quantities, it means that when you draw the graph between two quantities, it would be a straight line. But this straight line does not pass through the origin. This is the difference between both of these. So let's see here. The relationship is said to be proportional if the straight line graph passing through the origin. If there is a straight line between these two quantities graph and it would passing through the origin. The relationship between the different quantities is said to be linear if the graph is a straight line but does not pass through the origin. The graph is also a straight line, but in this case it does not pass through the origin, as you can see here.